Most photographers carry lenses, I carry tin cans. Hi, I'm Dave and I make cameras out of metal tins. And not just one, I've actually built a whole kit of them. Each tin is a different length and that gives me a different kind of photo. This flat one, this is my ultra wide. This long one, this is my telephoto. And everything in between just by changing the length from the hole to the paper. There's no lens, no glass, just a pinhole and light. Now there's a lot of videos out there about how to make pinhole cameras, so I'll give you a quick overview on how I built mine. First, you need a box, or in this case, a tin that closes tightly. That's why I love metal tins. They're naturally lightproof and I don't have to worry about the light leaks through the seams. I paint the inside black. That helps prevent stray light from bouncing around inside and softening the image. Then there's the most important part, the pinhole itself. I usually cut a small square from a drink can and use that as the pinhole plate. To make the hole, I press the tip of the needle against the metal, but I don't poke straight through. Instead, I gently rotate the needle like a drill. This helps to make a clean, circular hole. As I drill and throughout the process, I sand both sides of the metal until it's smooth and flat. That's really important. If the hole causes a bulge, your image will be soft. A clean, flat pinhole makes for the sharpest image possible. If you really want to go deep into pinhole photography, you'll find that the size of the hole actually matters. The ideal pinhole size depends on the distance between the hole and the paper. For shorter tins, a smaller hole, maybe around 1/3 of a millimeter. For longer tins, a bigger hole, maybe up to 3/4 of a millimeter. But a good place to start is around 1/2 millimeter. That's a nice balance between sharpness and brightness. I use a loop to measure the size of the hole. So here's what I did. I loaded a few tins of different lengths with photo paper in the darkroom. I set them up on the same spot, looking at the same scene. Once the exposures were done, I took them into the darkroom and developed the paper. The results? Paper negatives. The light areas are dark and the dark areas are light. But even as negatives, you can already see the difference each tin makes. The shorter tin gives me a super wide angle view, like this view of the boathouse. The longer tin, a much tighter frame, like a telephoto lens. This picture was captured from the exact same spot, and you can see how it's captured a much tighter frame of part of the building. But here's something that's important. The longer the distance from the pinhole to the paper, the longer the exposure needs to be. Same scene, different exposure times, because there's more space for the light to travel. In this specific example, the wide tin had an exposure time of 35 seconds. The long tin had an exposure time of 4 minutes, almost 7 times longer exposure for the exact same scene. You can also see that the images from the wide tin have a dark center and as less light is reaching the edges because it's further away from the pinhole. You'll need to experiment with your pinhole camera for the correct exposure times, and it depends on those two factors, the size of the pinhole and the distance of the hole to the film. Now you might be wondering, how do I get a real photo from this negative? It's actually really simple. Once the negative is dry, I place it on top of a fresh sheet of photo paper with the picture side down. I use the enlarger as a light source, just a few seconds of exposure, and then I develop the paper and I get a positive print. Light and dark reversed back to normal. However, there are times when I like the negative print better than the positive print, like in this example. I carry these tins around like a lens kit. Sometimes I want the wide one, sometimes I want a tighter perspective. Each one shows the world differently. The science behind it is simple but amazing. The shorter distance from the pinhole to the paper, wider angle of view. The longer the distance, the narrower the field of view and the longer the exposure. Each tin has its own lens with a personality. Not every image works. Sometimes light changes partway through the exposure. Sometimes it's just completely underexposed, but I love that. You don't always know what you're going to get. That's part of the joy. Pinhole photography forces you to slow down, to accept the unexpected, to focus on light and time. There's something magical about building your own camera, waiting patiently and watching the image appear in the tray, like a secret being revealed. At the end of the day, if I had to choose between the wide angle and the telephoto, which one would I choose? I would choose the wide-angle pinhole camera. It has much shorter exposure times. The telephoto can be hard to compose exactly what you want to have in your frame, while the wide angle takes it all in. It's great to have something close to the camera with a wide angle. It just gives it that foreground interest. Overall, if I was starting out, I would go with the wide-angle pinhole camera. If you've ever wanted to try it, I'd say go for it. Grab a tin, make a hole, load the paper, and let light do the rest. And if you make something cool, tag me. I'd love to see your version of a pinhole lens kit. Thanks for watching. If you like the content I'm creating, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much.